All right, hello everyone. My name is Hannah. I lead email and community at Growclass. You probably see me poking around your inbox, so hello, nice to meet you. If you're not familiar with Growclass, we are a 6-week growth marketing course and community filled with founders, marketers, and entrepreneurs. We teach folks the skills they need to grow their careers and their businesses. If you're interested in learning more about Growclass, I can drop a link in the chat for you there so you can peek. But today I'm really excited to learn how to stand out with your messaging from Lucy Bedewi. So Lucy is the founder of My Right-Hand Woman, which I love the play on words there, very cheeky. She specializes in writing personality-packed copy that converts for scaling businesses. Lucy is the writer behind global companies, fast-paced, fast-growth startups, world-famous bakeries, 7-figure coaches, and many creative entrepreneurs. We'll be dropping Lucy's links in the chat for you as well, so you can connect with her there. If you want to connect with Lucy, you can find her Instagram and her website in the chat. If you have any questions for Lucy, we will have time for a Q&A, so feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions or put your hand up with the little emojis at the bottom. You can also send me a private message if you're feeling a little bit shy, and I'll ask the question on your behalf. Just a reminder that there is no such thing as a dumb question. We're all here to learn. This is a judgment-free zone. We just ask that everyone is kind and respectful to one another. And with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Lucy so we can learn how to stand out with our messaging. Over to you, Lucy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I already have seen some of your smiling faces in the pictures on the side. So I'm really excited to chat with you guys about messaging. I would love if everyone can kind of put their business that they're running or the role that they're in the chat so I can kind of see who I'm talking to. This way we can make it marketing lead. Awesome. We can make it hyper relevant for what you are. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Beautiful. Great. Growth marketing manager. Organic grocery e-commerce. Oh, that's a fun one. Startup studio, leading marketing function. She creates collective. Awesome. So we are really all over. I really love seeing the diversity in the room and what everyone's doing. But what we all have in common is we can all benefit from messaging that is clear and interesting and takes us to our goals. So let's see if anyone, a social media manager. Awesome. Yeah, just want everyone to feel included. So let's hop right into it. So the first thing when it comes to your messaging is your brand voice. I'm sure a lot of us are super familiar with branding, our visual brand, our logos, our colors, all of those things that make us special. But sometimes we don't think about our brand voice. You probably have heard brand voice, brand tone, all of those good things. But how I like to kind of sum it up is this is the undercurrent in how your business communicates with the world around it. And when it comes to your brand voice, we're really going to look at it from two sides today. Instead of looking at it from the point of view of, oh, it's just your adjectives or just how your visual brand looks, but in a wordier sense, or, oh, it's just your ideal client. We're going to look at it from kind of like, we're going to make a Venn diagram. So if you guys have like a journal near you or anything like that, sometimes it can be really helpful to take notes. I find that sometimes, I'm not going to be like, take notes on this, but sometimes a breakthrough moment can come through during this and it can be really helpful to write things down. So if you're an entrepreneur, I want you to kind of approach this from what's the personality of me or my company? And if you are working for a company or your business is outside of your personal brand or outside of a person, then really approach it from the idea of who am I as a company, embodying what your company stands for. So the Venn diagram we're going to be making is how you sound or how your company sounds or what comes naturally to your company. And then the other side is how your ideal client wants to be spoken to. I find often when we do branding activities, we always think about things from our angle, like, oh, we're a fun company, we're a little bit intimidating, we're aspirational, but we don't often stop to think about, well, what is our ideal client expecting from us? So when it comes to how you sound, the questions I want you to ask yourself today is, what is your personality like? And this can be your personality as the founder, or it can be the personality of your company. Right now, we are going to be looking within the company. So you can take a moment. I mean, yeah, we definitely, I want this to feel like really workshopy and just so apparent for your needs. So feel free to stop me if you have a question in the middle of something, but we're just going to kind of play a little bit today. So you can write, what is your personality like? I can throw out some adjectives, things like you might be friendly, bubbly, warm, emotional. I mean, I even say like things that have traditionally negative connotations should also be put down. It doesn't all have to be sunshine and rainbows. The companies that do the best with their brand voice are the ones that are multifaceted like a human. And you can think to like Myers-Briggs results, Enneagram, if that's something that you guys are into. Just think about that personality that your company naturally embodies. And then I want you to kind of move on to think about some adjectives for how would your friends describe you? So this is where we can really move into those positive attributes that are with your brand. And if yours is more of a startup, maybe think, how do the people on your team describe your company? What are things that they're throwing out that describe the culture? And then this next question is always my favorite one. How would people who don't like you describe you? So if you're working for a company, it would be your competitors, the people who maybe they don't want to tear you down. That's a little bit extreme, but the people who are looking for holes in your business, what would they say about you that would be negative? And the reason I always ask this is usually your negative traits are actually your differentiators if you look at them a different way. So I'll just use myself as an example. I'm extremely impatient. And I always thought this was such a negative, horrible trait. People would say it about me. And then I use that to create my whole business model based off of efficiency. So you can think about it. And it's like when an employer is like, what's your biggest weakness? And you're like, I'm a perfectionist, or like, I work too hard. You know, it's that exact same vibe but we're actually going to do it very ethically this time, of taking things that people say they don't like about you and turning it into one of your business's biggest strengths. And then this last question is, how do you naturally write? Are you a little bit more flowery in your writing? Are you to the point? Are you super concise? Are you funny? Do you naturally just make jokes in your writing, or are you kind of stiff and serious? The reason I like to put this out there is if you are the one writing for your brand, this question I would skip if, you're not doing a majority of the writing for the company that you're working for or the company that you've started. But if you are that person who is in charge of the messaging, sometimes it's helpful to not have to like reinvent the wheel with your writing skills and just write in a way that feels naturally aligned with how you usually write and speak. So hopefully these questions got the wheels turning and you have some good adjectives down there, and it's starting to kind of come together in this weird word wall way, because now we're going to shift over to going outside of you and outside of your company into your ideal client. So I'm sure you've done this work before. It's, basically everyone in here is some form of a marketer. So who is your ideal client? I want you to think about not just, the blanket answer you give when people ask this question, but that one specific person where if they came knocking on your door to your company tomorrow, you'd be like, okay, someone frame them, put them on the door. Like, this is the person we want literally every single day. And then we're going to pull them into our mind and we're going to think, how do they want to be spoken to? Some of us have companies that are more serious, and it's companies where being a little bit more empathetic and leaning more into emotions is how people expect to be spoken to if it's a more serious topic. But some of us probably have companies that are really fun. Like, we have a fun brand voice. We make jokes, we go there, we're a little bit provocative, like all of those cool things. And maybe we serve a younger audience, or we serve an audience that wants to go there. Well, how they want to be spoken to is they want you to push the envelope. They want you to be interesting. So it's really important to think about the headspace that people are coming to you in when you're thinking about some of the ways that they want to be interacted with. And then I want you to think, what helps you stand out? These can be your differentiators. A lot of the times they're very intertwined with your differentiators, but sometimes it's just something simple, like maybe you say a word a different way, or maybe you are in an industry, where everyone else is like so serious and you're like, we want to be the first brand that like makes this more approachable. So like, where can you find those spots where you can really delight and surprise your ideal client? So question 3 is actually the opposite of question 2. Question 2, we're trying to keep some sort of perception in line, but question 3, we're trying to say, okay, where can we bend the narrative when it comes to how we're talking to our clients? And then the last thing would be, what do they expect from your brand? Always, I like to ask this because, we can do this amazing like messaging glow up. But the truth is, if you've been writing in a really serious way and you just start going insane with like the dad jokes, people are going to be like, wait, what? So it's really thinking, how are people expecting you to show up? What are their expectations around the way you usually speak? And if there is a lot of expectation, if your company's been in business for 5-10 years, there's been a lot of history. How can you move towards the tone you want to move to without like terrifying your current ideal client base? But to do that, we have to know what they expect. So just with these questions, it's really just like jot down anything that comes to you. This is obviously not going to be a long enough session for you to make everything pristine and perfect, but it's really just to get the brain wheels turning on your brand voice. You can kind of move it towards the direction you want to in your messaging. Okay, so now we're going to take these two things. It was a Venn diagram, and now we're going to kind of like crumple it into a paper ball. So we're going to mix it up. So these two slides, I want you to try and put them together and come up with 3 adjectives that you will convey in your voice. So this is where things get a little bit tricky, because let's say, for example, when you were doing your own brand voice, you were like, we are warm, we are friendly, we are bubbly, but then you looked at your ideal client and you're like, our ideal client is stressed and overwhelmed and all of these different things. Okay, well, now if you're going to be warm, friendly, and bubbly and they're stressed and overwhelmed, your emotions are going to clash. So maybe you can be warm, but you need to make sure you're adding an empathy. And maybe you can be friendly, but maybe we're going to take bubbly out of it because that's just going to kind of eat our ideal client's emotional tenor. So that's what I mean by mixing it up, is finding those common threads and themes. Where is it overlapping what you guys naturally are? And where is it overlapping what your ideal client expects? And ideally 3 adjectives. I know it can be hard. You can do 4 or 5 if you're like, I truly cannot choose. And this is the hardest part, so I wanted to put it on this slide. Remember to actually write in this voice. I can't tell you how many times I worked with clients and they're like, our voice is funny and hip and controversial. And then I get an email from them and they're like, I hope this email finds you well. And I'm like, what about this is like funny, hip, and controversial? So it's such a tiny thing, but if you are going to do a brand voice, really commit to it and use it in everything. Well, I think we have a question.
Mona?
Oh, I didn't know if I could go off. Hey, so I have a quick question.
Yeah.
One of the things that I said that my ideal client wants from me is the truth.
Nice.
And so if I'm thinking of an adjective, I don't know if truth is, but I was saying being direct. So like direct, is that considered the same thing, do you think?
Yeah, when I think of direct, I think of like the no fluff. Like, do you deliver the truth in a very like this is the truth? Like I don't like it can seem sometimes a little on the blunt side. I think like if you're a little softer, I would go more for the word honest.
Okay. That's a good word. That's a good word. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Happy to help. Okay, perfect. So, okay. So now we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can make things really interesting. We're going to kind of move into some of the things that you can do in your copywriting to make it interesting, to make it concise. So we're going to move away from the brand voice and into the how to actually are we going to write. So what I really want you guys to do is think about, so who here, actually you can raise your hand, who here has what they consider to be like a fun brand that can handle humor? Awesome. Okay, I see some hands going up. Great. So I want you to kind of think like, what is your sense of humor? I know that's a really awkward question to ask yourself. It's not something that we ask ourselves very often, but it can really help with figuring out the direction you want to go, because there's a big difference between like snark or sass or dad joke or, relatable humor, or, different comedians have different brands of humor. So think about how you naturally write. And then when it comes to putting this humor in your writing, because we are not stand-up comedians, for as much as I know from everybody in this room, I say always go for relatable humor as opposed to making jokes. Jokes don't come across very well in writing, but kind of being like adding those little italics, interjections, or parentheses that are just like saying what everyone is feeling, that's the stuff that goes over really, really well in your writing. Okay. So we're going to move over to clarity and conciseness before I move more into the interesting, sparkly part, because truthfully, when it comes to your copy, it doesn't really matter if it's really clever and funny and all these different things that are in your brand voice if people don't know what you do. So clarity is the number one thing I am often telling people to really lean into. So the best way to do this is with your mission statement. So I usually use the format I, verb, ideal client with offer to get results. This is a very like bare bones strategy, but can all of you like raise your hands? Do all of you feel comfortable that you can tell me this statement in one sentence for your company? Or if I saw you guys in an elevator, would I be stuck in that elevator for 3 minutes with you while you figure out what to tell me what it is that you do? I see some head nods. So I think clarity is a really great place to dial into. So I'm going to give you guys just like 1 second to try and create this line for your company. So I empower businesses with strategic messaging and bold copywriting so they can scale rapidly. If you can create this kind of clarity in your writing, I mean, we're going to do it with the mission statement because we can't write a whole site in 45 minutes. But if you can create this and you start to really think about, just have it in your head, like, how can I say less words? How can I be more clear? How can I say it as it is? I mean, talk about direct. Like we all need a little bit of direct in our copy and how we speak. And if you're not having a creative day, then just write down this framework. And after this call, dive in and try and create this one-liner for your business. And the number one thing, I said it before, I'm going to say it again, is always, always choose clear over clever. Clarity comes first. Once people are 100% positive what you do, that's the time to add in that cleverness. It's never the other way around, or else you just get like a cute brand that no one seems to purchase from. And then you're like, this is weird. And usually that's because the clarity is missing. So once we do that, I really want to move into, your offer suite, all of the different things your company does and offers. If your company does one thing, great. You have to do this exercise once. If your company does multiple things, then we need to create a one-liner for each thing you offer. Your one-liner should be what it is, why it's awesome, and then that's it. So really, we're keeping things so concise. If I asked you, oh, hey, I really want this, you know, I'm at your let's say I'm at your marketing agency and I'm like, I really want package 2. Can you tell me in one line why package 2 is awesome and what I'm going to get? So sometimes it helps to write down everything that you offer first. We often will forget things that are maybe a little bit smaller or like a high ticket offer that we don't sell very often. So really just getting it all on paper, like all of the things your company offers. And then you can go in and use that framework, I verb ideal client with offer to get result for each of your offers. So you're able to create a one-liner for each one. But if you can do this, you will be so powerful. I mean, we're here for messaging, but if like, let's say, you know, you're on a sales call or you're trying to sell something, you won't have to do the whole presentation and then like scare the buyer, because you'll be able to be like, hey, I know you need this. This is what you're struggling with. This is how this can fix it. And this is how it does that. And that is pure power, because then what you're doing is you're saying like, these are the cards, they're on the table, and now it's on you to like us enough to buy. And you're putting that empowerment into your buyer's hands instead of being all flustered, like, we have this offer and here's all the features, and then you're going to just overwhelm them. So by being more clear and more concise, you'll also up your conversion rates and be able to make more sales. Okay. So when it comes to being concise, being clear, here's just a couple of tips, because I assume, you know, some of us are copywriters, but some of us aren't. Sentences should be under 10 words. If you notice that you're adding a lot of commas, or if you keep doing that like dash thing, or it keeps going, just split it into multiple sentences. Really short sentences are the way to go. If your sentences are long, usually you're using too many adjectives. I rarely see people use too many verbs, but we love to adjective stuff, especially if the adjective doesn't tell me anything. Let's get all those like amazing, effective, game-changing, leveling up, like all that stuff. Let's get it out of there. And then use fragments. I mean, I'm not your English teacher, so fragments are such a great way to be really punchy and concise in your messaging and your copy. So once we have that clarity, once we feel so good that we know exactly what we're saying and what we're selling to people, then we can move into the capturing interest phase. We already kind of scratched that surface when I was talking about humor, but there's so many other ways to capture interest if you're like, oh God, I don't want to have to be funny. Like, and for a lot of brands, like being funny is not the move, you know, like we see some, like, for example, like lawyers and consulting firms, like maybe being funny is like really bad for their brand image. So always think, okay, what can my brand support? Not what would make this more interesting. You know, there's a reason why I'm really starting in this way, where we start with the voice, we start with the brand, the core, we move to the clarity. And then this is just like that. If you have extra time, if your brand can support it, let's add these interesting sprinkles. So there's really 3 ways to do this. Humor, which we've been over, feelings, which is that empathetic piece, but it's more than just saying like, do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel whatever? But it's really getting to the heart of what your ideal client's truly feeling. And then the last one is differentiators. So if you have really strong differentiators, I want you to lean on them like crazy, because that's usually what makes people stop and be like, oh, wow, this is like different than any company I've ever seen before. In a perfect world, you have sprinkles of all 3, but I also realize that not all brands support all 3. So I'll leave this up to your discretion. So just to go back to it, humor is really important to me. As a copywriter, I'm very into making things casual and conversational and funny. And if your brand can support it, humor will help you be more memorable. So try it. I mean, if like maybe after this call, pull up a Google Doc and try and write about your company in a way that's funny. And then maybe it'll be totally cringe, and you'll like send it to your team and they'll be like, oh gosh, okay. You know, but it's like, that's the fun, is just like play and experiment. So just remember to go for that relatable humor, and honestly, you might surprise yourself and you might be funnier than you think you are. Feelings. So feelings are another one I feel really strongly about, because I feel like we often don't do feelings the right way in copy. So when it comes to feelings, I don't know, like I'm guilty here, but most of us don't know how we feel. Like if you tell me like, oh, are you like disappointed or are you overwhelmed or whatever? It's like, I wasn't grown up in like a feelings household. So I'm like, I don't know. I just feel terrible and I want to lie down. Like, like that's, we don't know how we feel. So when you're saying feeling words, like you feel sad, you feel angry, most of the time we don't know how we feel. So I want you to kind of move away from this idea of labeling a feeling like you're a psychologist and move into how can you specifically verbalize a feeling. Like if I'm overwhelmed, I want to just like, throw everything down on the table and leave the room and just be like, yep, I'm going to touch that in 3 weeks because I literally can't add one more thing to my plate. So think about the actions you take when you have specific feelings and think about the specific things you're doing in response to those feelings and write about that instead of the feeling itself. And also, don't be afraid to go for the taboo feelings. I feel like oftentimes marketers have no problem being like, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, because those are feelings that we're allowed to have in society. But oftentimes the ones that really get people are things like anger and sadness. Like those are the things that really mobilize people to make change. So don't be afraid to go there with frustration and disappointment and like add that color, that whole range of feelings, and you will be a much stronger marketer. So we have, how can you specifically verbalize a feeling? And then the other one is, what feelings does your offer really speak to? I think it's so easy to think it might speak to a feeling, but then, you talk to your ideal client and you're like, wait, they're not feeling that at all. They're actually feeling something totally different. So don't forget the market research. It's so important, especially when you start making assumptions about people's emotional state. You can really like turn someone off of an offer if you think they're somewhere that they're not. So take that extra time, interview those 10 ideal clients, and really make sure that you're meeting them at the right spot in their journey. And then, it all comes for a full circle. How intense would your brand voice like to dig into each feeling? If you are a fun cheerleader, positive, peppy brand, you probably don't want to talk about like the horrors of grief. It would just be weird. So think about like where your brand is and then decide how much you want to dig in from there. Then differentiation is another way to add interest. So maybe you're really differentiated, or maybe you're not. If you're one of those people who are really differentiated, you're like, we do this, all of our competitors do this, and this is why we're awesome. Awesome. Lean on that. So where are you not like anybody else? And maybe you're like maybe one of your competitors has this, but maybe you do it like way better. Don't feel like you have to be like standing alone to make it a differentiator. It just has to be something that you're like, I think we're like the best in the world at this. And like, don't be afraid to brag, just own it. And then how can you talk about this in multiple places? So if you're going to lean on a differentiator, I want to see it on your website. I want to see it in sales calls. I want to see it on any flyers or any like actual paper assets you have, on your elevator pitches, wherever you are going to be talking about your company, your differentiators live. You put it in your mission statement. You put it in the one-liner that you're going to, talk to an investor about. Wherever it is, it's like plastered everywhere. And then differentiation is really powerful, especially when you can mix it with feelings and humor. So let's say you have a differentiating feature, maybe you have a SaaS company and your feature is totally different. Maybe all the other companies, they only give you like a couple gig of storage and you give way more storage. You can be like, for all those cat pictures that you save that you're never going to come back to, you're showing that you have a differentiator, but you're also adding humor. So it's not just like another company that's just like, you get 10 gig of storage instead of 5. It's like, how can we make that more fun? How can we make that more sparkly? And then always going back to how do you naturally write, especially when you're talking about your differentiators, you don't want it to seem too corporate, but you also don't want it to seem too casual if that's not how you naturally write. So I created this line for you guys because I think it's really important. The best way to be more interesting in your writing is to create a safe space for you to practice being bolder in your writing. If you are constantly scared that someone is going to read your writing and be like, oh, that sucks or whatever, you are always going to write like a corporate English teacher because you're going to be nervous. And through no fault of your own, I think sometimes if we have a team or we're trying to impress someone or we're writing for a client, it can be really stressful. But like I've written for clients and then they read my headline and they're just like, my jaw was on the floor. Like that was so like provocative. Oh my gosh. And I'm just like, yep, okay, cool. It went too far, whatever. Like we'll dial it back. But I create that space where, you know, I let myself take risks. So don't be afraid to create that space for yourself. Even if you need to go to your favorite person on your team and be like, hey, can you like read this first? I like really went for it. Or if you need to create multiple options for copy that people can like vote on. But honestly, more times than not, people might be a little freaked out by the bold option, but even that client who said that to me after 24 hours is like, I'm using it, I'm going for it. So, you know, people want boldness. Sometimes it just takes some time to warm up to it, but let yourself be loose so you can write your best work. Okay, that's pretty much all I have. And I'm so excited to dive into your questions. I feel like we covered a lot in a little bit of space. So I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions so we can chat through everything that was in the slideshow and things about your own companies.
Yeah, we'll open the floor up for anyone if you want to raise your hand or unmute yourself or drop a question in the chat. Oh, we got one in the chat from Rachel. Have you noticed your work changing as more companies are using AI for copywriting?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So definitely, I think a lot of more of my clients have thought they can write their own copy, so they go to AI. But truthfully, I don't think AI has mastered. I mean, you know, this is recorded, so come back to talk to me in 5 years and be like, remember when Lucy said this? But truthfully, I don't think like AI can capture humor and human emotion. I think that's why I really want you guys to focus on those interesting sparkles, because AI is going to get to the point where it can bang out a blog post that like sounds pretty good, but it's never going to be able to kind of give people that visceral reaction, that like feeling. And I feel fortunate that my clients come to me for conversational copy that inspires action. So I think, you know, AI, it will be the last thing for AI to replace. So I feel like if you're struggling with AI, if you feel like people are using AI, what I would honestly say is like AI spits out beautiful words, but they're empty. So you really need that human touch to bring that uniqueness and that humanness to the writing. So yeah, I think use that as your magic. And a lot of like clients who start using AI, you know, they come back because they put that new sales page up and they realize, oh, it's just not converting, but it sounds so good. And I'll read it and I'll be like, unforgettable moments for your unforgettable life. And I'll be like, what does that mean? You know? So it's like AI has not captured that like clarity, that razor sharp, like, wow, she gets me or he gets me. So definitely that we have a leg up on AI when it comes to humanness, strategy, and bringing it all together. So it's a tool. I would say use it as a tool, similar to how you use Grammarly. Okay. Oh, I love someone said, unfortunately, my org hates humor. I'm sorry.
I put a little tear emoji for that one.
Yeah.
We got Alicia in the chat. I think something that makes me stand out is my weirdness. How would you recommend I explain that my uniqueness is my uniqueness? If that's even a good selling point, LOL.
It can be. I would always just say when it comes to your weirdness, or I often use the word like quirkiness, does it affect your ideal client? You know, if your quirkiness is, or your weirdness is your brain thinks differently. So that could be an amazing edge that you can tell your ideal client about. But if it's that, you know, maybe your weirdness is like you can paint a really great pet rock, but you're selling social media marketing services, I'd be like, could be a cute, fun fact, but I don't know if it's a differentiator. So I'm curious, and I want to leave you with this question, and you can even answer, like turn on your mic if you want to, is do you think your weirdness affects your work in a positive way? Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So you were definitely the former. It allows you to think very differently. So I would verbalize, how does it allow you to think differently? Maybe even show like, hey, typical, I forgot what it is specifically you are working in. I'm just going to go back. I don't know if you put it in there, but I would even say like typical X person in this role would ... Me, on the other hand, with my weird little quirky brain would ... like even show like the difference. That's the cool thing about differentiators is there's so many different ways to show them. And as long as you're being super direct and like just spitting it out, maybe with some humor, I think that could be a really great time. I mean, you use the word weirdness. So I think, your brand could handle that humor. Then, you're able to make people smile and be like, wow, they're going to be worth that money because they are different than anyone I've ever met before. Yeah, of course. Happy to help. And this goes for everyone. Like, get really creative with these differentiators. Like I told you, like, how would your worst enemy describe you? Cool. Like, use that as your edge.
Question, Lucy. Tawana over here. Can you hear me?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. You just didn't pop up on the screen. I was like, who's speaking?
So one of the things, I've done a lot of market research over the summer, and a lot of my ideal clients are struggling with, because I do business strategy, and they have been in different programs that have been so just difficult, hard, challenging, always giving them 17 funnels to do, all of this just stuff, right? So one of the things that I think makes me different is that my approach is simplicity, really simple. And I don't even use business jargon. Like, I don't even say things like target audience. I'm like, find your people, right? Yeah. Because I really want to kind of like speak to where they are. And really, I think they've been in a lot of these programs where they're just like totally dazed and confused. But I'm just wondering, is that something, and I guess my competitors would say, oh yeah, she's basic, I'm just, but I'm just wondering if simplistic is like one of the, I guess adjectives is something that I can put in my copy. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, like, I'm like, cool, like, be basic, like, create the basic blueprint, even create like metaphors that are like easy as pie, like the cakewalk business, like, if your competitors are going to call you basic, use similes, use metaphors to show, look how easy this is. And of course, in your copy, like you already said it, you're saying find your people, not like, identify your target market, so it's just like, and also speak to what they're feeling. I mean, on your sales pages and stuff for your programs, say things like, I get it. If one more person tells you to make a funnel, you're going to quit this whole business and become a zookeeper. Like, just be that hyper relatable person because you clearly know your ideal client, how they're feeling, and then show your competitors like, hey, I might not tell them to make 17 funnels, but my students get results, and then back it up with case studies. And you could be a really powerful, like, force to be reckoned with if you just like utilize that in the right way.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And we got another question in the chat from Becky. What are your thoughts on not being the lead writer on the team, and when you have ideas for copy changes or improvements and they are resistant to change? For context, the person above me is the VP of marketing, so neither of us are technically copywriters.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. Like, I think obviously in the name of collaboration, you want to collaborate as much as possible. I think this, honestly, more than a bringing your ideas to the table, is maybe a communication error or just like a balance of power. And I think if you have really great ideas, the people who are above you should, listen to them. So I would just be curious what the VP of marketing, how they like to take your ideas, how they input, like, how they take information best. And maybe they're like, no, I want to do it this way. Like, this way has worked. Maybe it's like, okay, well, they're obviously someone who needs a lot of proof. So I can't just send them like copy and be like, I think this sounds really good. It's like, I have to send them copy and be like, based on this, and this, I think this will increase our ROI by this much. So some people are logic people, whereas other people are like, yes, bring me all your ideas. So I would say, like, think about the ideas that they were really receptive to in the past and think, okay, how did I present those? And how can I work to present those like that more and more often? Because when I work with corporations, like, it's totally different than when I'm working with like one founder and both of us are just like throwing crazy ideas on the table. It's like I'm working with multiple people. And oftentimes I will be like, hey, guys, I think I'm right. Like, and sometimes it's just a matter of having that confidence to be like, no, I really think this could work. And that conviction, it's contagious, you know, and then people who are above you will be like, okay, like, yeah, it kind of freaks us out. We're not quite sure, but go, you have 5 minutes, like, give us your thing. So it's sometimes just having the confidence to bring those ideas too. Hope that's helpful. I know that was like way more psychology than copywriting. Yeah, of course. Happy to help. It can be so hard. I know some people are resistant to change, especially if the company has been doing it a certain way for a certain amount of time, and then you come in with like a wild idea and they're just like, what? Okay. How do you suggest? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. It's like either one. It's okay. How do you suggest approaching those more serious topics like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah, it's really funny you say this because I actually just worked with a coach who goes in and helps companies with their DEI. She works in the education sector. And the first thing she said to me is she's like, I don't want to be one of those stuffy DEI people where no one actually talks in my talks. And I was like, okay, like, let's do it. So you really have two directions to go with a serious topic. Be serious and be like, this is how we do it. Talk about the benefits in a really streamlined way, really lean on that clarity, less than that interest, but using like emotions and empathy to get your point across. Or be like, you know, everyone's scared to talk about this, and I'm just going to be real. So you really have two ways that you can approach that on the spectrum. Some brands are going to be able to handle that spectrum side really, really well. Whereas other brands, I would be like, you might want to hold back and just go for that more serious, but still concise, still clear, still great copy, great writing. But yeah, so I would say see where you fall. I actually like when people kind of are more real and more authentic around serious topics, especially if it's time to bring a conversation to the table that has historically been underrepresented. So yeah, choose your path wisely, but there is a way to do serious topics in a very conversational, real way.
All right, crew. Well, thank you so much for your questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat as well. If anyone else has any final questions, feel free to unmute. I will drop Lucy's links in the chat for everyone. So if you want to connect with her, to work with her, you can find her on Instagram and on her website. Rachel, you got another question. Love it. What are your favorite resources to keep improving your writing?
I actually like reading. I mean, I think when it like when it comes to writing, I haven't used a lot of like improve your writing courses and stuff, so I'm not sure if there's any that I think are amazing. I'm sure there are because, you know, it's the internet and there's always so many things for anything you'd possibly need. But I really love reading like from different authors. I also like watching comedy. I think like movies and media and even going to like modern art museums can really help with just inspiration. So much of writing is just being inspired. So whatever makes you feel inspired will also improve your writing. And then just practice. Like I write when I'm not writing copy, I'm writing like poetry, I'm writing short stories, I'm writing lyrics, and like these things never leave my drive, but it's like always just flexing that writing muscle. So I'm not, you know, falling into traps of writing with a formula, which I think can really take away a lot of the magic of copy.
My question is for you is, do you prefer writing with your hand or do you like typing? Like, do you find that there's a difference when you are writing stuff out on the medium of which you are expressing yourself?
I journal every morning for like 30 minutes to an hour, and that's like hand time. And I love stationery. Like, I think I single-handedly keep like stationery boutiques in business, but I could never imagine writing a client's website by hand.
No.
Like, it would just be so intense. Like that, I immediately type out. But I think the pencil to paper is very real, and just like letting yourself have that time with your thoughts, I think is super powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes I find that when I'm blocked, like switching my medium from typing to writing it out helps unblock me. Which brings up another question. Do you have any techniques or things that you do when you do feel like you are blocked?
Oh man, I'll do it all. I'll like go to a dance class, I'll like get some sunshine, I will call a friend, I'll like lay on the bed and contemplate my life choices. Like I like everybody gets writer's block. But honestly, I think one of the most powerful things to do is just task switch, go do something else, and then like come back to it. I mean, hopefully you're not on such a crazy deadline that it has to be done in like 2 hours. But if you can just like step away or hand it to another person, like sometimes if I'm really blocked, like I'll hand it to someone on my team and be like, yeah, I realize you're not a copywriter, but can you just like look at this and like tell me if it's totally off? Like ask for help is the number one thing that I think helps.
Love that. Thank you. Also, great tip in the chat, Michael. I love seeing that. As an advertiser, I often go into ad libraries of competitors and look at what my competitors are writing / advertising to see if there's anything I can learn / leverage from my own content. It's great.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, guys, like look at your competitors. I always say like selective blinders. You don't want to like look at them so much that you're comparing yourself to them. You want to always stay in your own lane and what you're good at. But I can appreciate a great ad. I mean, Michael, absolutely. Like when I watch the Super Bowl, especially, I'm just like, no one talk during commercials. This is why I'm here.
You're watching just for the ads.
Yeah. And the halftime show.
Okay, fair. All right. Any final questions from anyone? Any comments? Anything you'd like to add, Lucy?
I think, yeah, I mean, I love that we're all in different industries. Just like keep experimenting. I think we live in a world where the internet has so much on it. There's so much noise and it's really hard to stand out. So the best way you can stand out is just by being a little bit crazy and like trying things and seeing what sticks. So yeah, just you got this. Like even if you're not a copywriter, like you're all brilliant and I'm sure you can find like really interesting angles and edges to lean on. Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
There's Lucy's links again for anyone who missed it. Lucy, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. This was a great session. Learned so much. Thank you for everyone for participating today. Love your questions in the chat and for unmuting and putting your hands up, all that good stuff. I will be sending a recording of this to everyone in email after, so look out for that. I'll also be sharing it in our Slack. And you know where to find Lucy. All her links are in the chat.
Yeah. So. Hit me up in the DMs. I'm very approachable, so we can always start a conversation.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, folks. Have a great day. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Tuesday. Tuesday. Take it easy, friends. Bye-bye.